So,
Right?
Hardeep, thank you for taking the time out to do this interview with India Global Business. We are delighted to have this discussion with you. ITC Infotech now is a huge tech giant with a massive global presence. As the UK head of ITC Infotech, could you tell us a little bit about how the company is addressing the challenges brought up by the pandemic today?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. So yes, these are very unusual times, and I thought by the time we sort of do this interview, we would have been over it. But as we can see, that's not the case. In fact, we just had a review recently to discuss, how do we sort of move forward, regarding people coming back. But let me share with you our journey. So, in any pandemic, any crisis, I think an organization's core values are really tested. And our core values, which we have been true to and which we have inculcated, we believe in all our employees, are around three core pillars. The first is employee centricity. And the first and foremost responsibility of ITC Infotech was its employees. I mean, this is a pandemic, unknown enemy, call it whatever you will. So that was our first focus, making sure that we had a secure work from home, protocol implemented, making sure that people were comfortable in terms of working from home. People had to get the right infrastructure, and that took some time. But I'm happy to say that the organization really rallied, and I think we really implemented work from home very quickly, which was a pleasant surprise because when this started, we weren't very sure how fast we could do that. So that was the first thing, and that continues. In fact, like other organizations, we have about 10% of our teams which have come back to campus, and we are monitoring it every day. We also, in a scenario like this, one of the challenges that I think all organizations face is when people are working from home. There is a bit of a change, obviously, in the way they connect with the organization, right? Where instead of people being in the office, there's a certain culture which gets, strengthened and interaction, right? I mean, you can't replace that. So we try to figure out how do we keep people connected. And obviously, being an IT company, we went to technology and we developed an app and we called it Corona. Now, as you know, in Corona in Hindi means Corona. Why not do it? And it was like fight Corona. So that was the whole theme in the first few months, and that continues. It was a rallying cry for every single employee of ITC Infotech that we will fight Corona. We call the app, and through that app, they could connect every day on whatever is happening in the organization, whether it's laptops, bandwidth, you have a problem, you can call a help desk, and it was happening real time. That was one. The other important, second pillar is client centricity, and obviously extremely important. Now, clients were going through this themselves, right? They were implementing work from home, secure work from home. What is the most important, behavior from an ITC Infotech, from a partner like ITC Infotech for a client, is assurance. The first thing is, is everything okay, right? Can you continue to deliver? And I must say, the relationships we have built over the years with our clients, the first question which all, without exception, clients ask, are your people safe? First, tell me that. Okay. And then how are you in helping them make sure they deliver to us, right? And making sure that obviously quality of service continues, which was a challenge for any company. You change your model from being in the office. So that was the second focus. And in that, the communication, which we did every single day in the first few weeks with clients, and then regular stand-ups where people were talking to clients, obviously the way we are doing on video conference, which was again a new thing for many people. That constant touch made a big difference. In fact, I had people come and tell me that, I was never closer to many of my clients before this. It's as if this gave an opportunity for people because they were on video conferences. Previously, there used to be audio calls, and now it became video conference because you had to, see people. We had to reassure clients, so that made a big difference, and we were able to, continue to deliver a quality of service, and that was appreciated by clients. They were also going through the whole process themselves. And of course, technology, as you all know, everybody knows, technology has been very core. I must thank the technology industry that we have the technology to actually continue to do this. I just think what would have happened if this had happened many years ago when we did not have collaborative software. Okay, it would have been a very, very difficult situation. And the third part the third pillar of our core values is operational excellence, and that came to fore during this time. Not only in enabling our employees to be working from home effectively, but also being able to remote deliver many services which used to be typically delivered on site. And the entire organization rallied behind that. We set up a war room, we set up a specific team to look at every single aspect of our service delivery and how we could deliver it remotely. And in the operational excellence team, there are many stories of how people have worked through the night, through the weekend, making sure that client delivery happens, and that's been appreciated. So that really, in summary, is how we have responded, and we are continuing to do so. And I will end by saying that our relationships have strengthened in this period with our clients. We've all been in this together. The concept of being in things together has never been more important and has never become more of a reality.
Thanks, Hardeep. You're absolutely right. Tech definitely has played a very pivotal role. And as an Indian tech company in the UK, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the UK-India tech partnership. Now, we both know that the UK, there's a lot going on in the tech corridor in the UK and India. But what, according to you, are some of the key opportunities within this corridor that need to be leveraged or addressed to take it to the next level?
Thanks. So I've been thinking about this not only before this particular meeting that we're having. I've had conversations with UKTI, with CII, and many other, and NASSCOM as well. And there are a few things I've shared common, and I'll share that with you as well. I think the first thing which has happened because of this current pandemic, and I'm relating to some of the new opportunities, is that clients, companies, organizations have realized that in many services which were considered to be out of scope for collaborative working have suddenly become in scope because there is no other option. And that, frankly, for the UK and India tech partnership is a big opportunity. If there was ever any opportunity to collaborate even more, it is now, because already, for example, in our case, our clients and our teams are collaborating a lot more. So there are many areas which have opened up, which earlier people said, no, this cannot be done remotely, and we need the teams, face to face. So certainly, and I would urge, I have shared this with the NASSCOM as well and other trade bodies, that this is the time to see what are the learnings from this experience and how can that therefore increase collaboration. Where in many cases, both sides, Indian companies as well as UK companies, used to think that there are only certain things that can be done remotely and in a collaborative manner, not face to face. The second aspect, which I've also shared earlier, is for the UK specifically, in the context of grabbing market share from many other sourcing destinations, which typically have been where companies have set up centers and so on. The increased collaboration, the fact that UK itself also has suffered economically, this is the opportunity for the UK government to look at ways of incentivizing organizations from investing in parts of the UK which are, let's say, lesser invested in. Okay, I mean, it could be wherever, it could be the north, different parts, and we know that the south of the UK has a lot of investment. Okay, so that's the other. The third is a very interesting aspect, which is that while, of course, we are a technology company and we are in the technology industry, if the other aspect which has become very important is the human touch. And what this has led UK and the companies we work with, technology companies, is to actually focus on how do we bring in human-centric solutions. And I will talk about, for example, one of the initiatives that we are ourselves driving, which is around automation. And as you're aware, automation is something that everybody talks about. But automation typically earlier was viewed as a very machine learning led, repetitive sort of thing. It had a very hard view to it. Today, however, after this experience in which we are still going through, automation has now taken a human centric approach. And we have developed various solutions. We've developed digital persona, which can actually help individuals in their roles, as opposed to only focusing on automating and streamlining processes. So I think that is another area where I would definitely encourage that this sharing of learning between UK and India in terms of technology companies and clients should happen. I haven't seen a forum for that as yet, but I think in any pandemic, I mean, it's not only related to the IT industry. Any crisis creates a lot of stories. What rarely we do is when the crisis is over, we look back and say, hey, you know what, let's share some learning. Everybody just moves on and goes on to their usual work.
Let's talking a little bit about this, continuing on this topic. Now, ITC Infotech was one of the top Indian companies in the UK, according to the Grant Thornton India Meets Britain report. And you've just talked a little bit about what ITC itself has been doing. I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about how ITC is sort of contributing to the overarching UK-India tech partnership, not just during the pandemic, but even if you had any certain kind of projects that were in the pipeline before the pandemic hit, and if you could just tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So there are two ways in which we are contributing. And first, before I share that, I must call out that we need to do a lot more. Okay, by no means. I mean, we just about started, as I always keep telling my organization. There's a lot more we have to do. If anything, in crisis, only bring that out much sharper. So there are two parts to it. First is in terms of obviously our own core capabilities and our strengths. Okay, I mean we need to leverage that in terms of delivering value for the UK, and our collaboration is with several clients, of course, in our core verticals. We work mainly in the banking, financial services, the CPG and manufacturing, and the travel and hospitality verticals. And as you know, ITC Limited, one of the largest conglomerates in India, is a leader in its segments, and CPG and manufacturing in particular are the core strengths, as well as agribusiness, and I'll talk about that a little later. So in these verticals, our focus has always been, as you can see from our theme, is to provide business-friendly solutions. Now, there are, before the pandemic, colored by the pandemic, there are four areas that we have seen as being very effective. The first is based, and I'm probably answering a question which will come later, but I'm just putting it all together because that's how my ideas are flowing. One very big focus area for organizations has become what we are calling platforms of intelligence. And what that means is that companies have realized that particularly companies focused on B2C, and also companies which were traditionally not focused on direct to consumer, they were working through the trade. For example, FMCG companies have realized that engaging with customers and consumers online, digitally, in different ways has become even more important. I mean, that's like, it's a no-brainer, right? Most of us are working remotely. I happen to be working from office, and I've started coming back, but 90%, 95% of people are still working from home, and we're all online. How do you interact with consumers who don't visit the malls or the stores? Okay, who don't really go out that much? So platforms of intelligence is something which has resonated with all our clients, and they're looking at ways to build and sustain consumer loyalty, and using technology for that. So that's one big focus. Every single CIO is charged by the board to accelerate digital transformation. So if it was important before, it is critical right now. Okay, so that's the one. The second is automation. Again, taking on a very different approach. And in these solutions, what is important for the UK is that apart from obviously helping UK companies differentiate themselves globally by availing of our expertise, the others we are partnering with British technology companies, okay, with what are called independent software vendors in the banking sector, vendors who are focused on customer experience. We are partnering with them as well as global ISVs to actually develop these solutions. So apart, and I'll talk about automation a little later. The third area, which has become very, very important, combined with the online boom and e-commerce, is supply chain. And as you would have seen during this time, even before, but it became very sharper, supply chains became critical. And those organizations which had been, which had the right sort of supply chain planning systems and technology is very important there, have been able to avail of the boost in demand. And that's the third area that we are working on. Let's say our ITC experience helps us a lot. We have managed very, very large supply chains in India. And so that's the third. And the fourth is combining the variable demand, the boost in e-commerce, and the need for a supply chain, which is very real, is manufacturing excellence. You may see that there's a theme in this. It is related to our parentage. It is related to the fact that we are part of ITC. And so manufacturing excellence in the world of a dynamic supply chain, very rapidly changing demand, okay? When people are shopping online, the decisions are much faster. That is the fourth area. And again, we've seen that resonating. So this is the first part where we are working with clients. We are just, strengthening our solutions, factoring the fact that the pandemic makes it, even more critical. The second area, which again is where we need to do a lot more, is our collaboration with universities. So you may be aware that Milton Keynes is soon to have its own university in 2021. And so ITC Infotech is one of the business partners of Milton Keynes University. I'm connected with the CEO there, with Lynette. And we are interacting and helping them in two ways. One is we will be providing opportunities for people, students, to do projects and obviously a part of the curriculum. And also if the university does reach out to us, we are, it's still early days, to actually help them, in terms of suggestions for their curriculum, which will be related to the skills that we would like to see in the candidates that we would recruit. And so that's with Milton Keynes University. There's a lot more to be done, very early days. But that's really how we are looking at it. And, to answer, how things are going to change. I mean, this is something which was there before. Just to emphasize that because of what's happened and is happening in these months, both CEOs and their boards are putting a lot of pressure on the chief digital officers, on the CDOs, okay, to actually drive the digital transformation in a far faster manner, and with a focus significantly on how to engage with consumers, exactly the areas I talked about, and that is going to see a lot of focus from organizations. The other part, which is also an outcome of this crisis, unfortunately, economy has got badly affected. Companies haven't done as well. Is a huge pressure on cost reduction. It is unprecedented. The last time was probably, the subprime crisis, but that is only the banking industry, right? This is every industry, and there's a huge focus on that. And again, that puts pressure on the CDO. We are helping organizations do that, our existing clients, bringing in automation, which in any case has been one of the key focus areas to streamline operations. We are looking at different models. One of the big requirements which you will see from clients, then they're looking at when they're looking at partners, they're looking at a joint venture philosophy, much more than which was before. If previously companies like ITC Infotech, and we have very few clients who look at us that way, were looked at as vendors, today it's partnership. And it is clear joint venture, which means that, look, we really need now to work together, okay, because we are facing big challenges, and how can you help in that? So the whole concept of joint venture, where we look at outcome-based pricing, where we look at investments upfront, and deliver to business outcomes, that has become much more important. In fact, it's like a tipping point in the industry, and those companies who are taking that, gladly taking that route, will definitely do well, and ITC Infotech is very much there.
You talked a little bit about the CDOs and looking at digital technology device solutions, and I thought this would be an excellent time to touch upon the bot buddies that ITC Infotech has introduced to employees in your company. And could you just explain a little bit about how that concept kind of works and how this might kind of translate going forward post-pandemic as well? Do you see any applications for that?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, what we, the face of automation, we've taken a different view. The face of automation that we are presenting to our clients is a human-centric approach. Our belief and our focus is that automation can amplify human potential. In fact, that's one of our key themes of ITC Infotech. How do we amplify human potential of every single one of our employees, not only our clients? And that's how the idea originated. That we focus on our clients, we focus on delivering value for our clients. And when we look at automation, we need to, as they say, walk the talk. So how do we first lead by example? And that's how the concept of a digital worker, digital personas, and digital buddies came about. So what we are doing is we are creating a digital persona for different roles in the organization, which is basically a bot which mimics the tasks done by different done in different roles, and a digital buddy, which is for different people. You have a digital buddy which will take care of all the non-essential work. So it could be, for example, what we have already started is some of the areas which a salesperson typically struggles or spends a lot of time is completing expense reports and doing a lot of the non-essential work, applying for leave and so on and so forth, various things which a digital buddy will take care of. And the whole idea of automation first, where first our employees need to experience that before they can become what we're talking about. The next sort of phase is a digital developer, where you actually use automation in various solutions. So we want to inculcate through each employee actually using automation for their own efficiency and productivity, to inculcate that approach that when you are doing it for yourself, it helps you think, how to automate when you are developing solutions for clients. And this is something that we've implemented in ITC Infotech. It's a long journey. There are several roles and processes. We are also implementing it for our parent company, ITC. And we have several conversations going on with our clients who are all actually quite surprised by this approach, because typically when they look at automation, they say, okay, so RPA, right? You just automate a repetitive process and so on. And suddenly we're saying, no, this is actually related to, let's say, a category manager, a brand manager. Have you considered what you can help, how you can help that person? Okay, I mean, we are conversing here, for yourself. I mean, you're running a very large group. There's so many non-essential tasks which, you would have to do yourself. Okay, you say, I wish there was an app for this, or I wish there was a bot for this. We're going to do that. And that's exactly the point, because then when you do it, when our developers do it, when they think of a solution, it's as if automation is just, I don't want to use the word DNA, it's a cliche, but we are trying to inculcate that. It also has a benefit, to be absolutely frank, in attracting young talent. Okay, when we go to our, and we will go now, it's all remote, but when we go to campuses, when we sort of advertise, when people come to know this is a company where it just doesn't talk automation, in quotes, it walks automation. That's the whole idea.
Thanks, Hardeep. Certainly would love to look forward to such a bot. Sounds like a
You can let us
fantastic,
know what sort of a bot you want, and we'll design it.
fantastic. I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about markets now from AI and the pandemic. Could you please tell us a little bit about what makes the UK and Europe key markets for ITC Infotech?
Okay, quite different from other IT companies. Europe is the largest market for ITC Infotech. I think we're probably unique in that, because most IT companies, for them, the US is the largest market. And in Europe, UK is the biggest market. And, it's been that way for some time. And we've been around here for many years. And I must call out a few reasons why, and then I'll talk about the future. First is it has, I don't know about other companies, and I know, there are some companies which struggle to set up shop here, and I'll talk about that a little later. But we have found it very easy to do business here, frankly. Yes, there are changes which we are recommending in terms of labor, people movement, mobility. Okay, there are specific changes which we have recommended in terms of how ICT, people under the ICT scheme can come and go back, etc. And there's a separate forum for that. But we made recommendations. But all in all, it's very easy to do business here. Okay, we have never really had any issue, whether it's the trade bodies which come and ask us, do you need any help in terms of any planning, in terms of getting space, investments, skills, and so on. Okay, even here in Milton Keynes, we've never had an issue, and neither have we had any issue in Europe. Okay, maybe that's our experience. So we worked in various countries, and we've always found it very smooth. That's the first part. It's a good experience we've had. The second is that, of course, when you look at UK and Europe is different countries. Okay, we should not obviously just sort of group it. We have a specific understanding of each country. We've developed a very, very good relationships here in the UK and Europe, working with our clients, and it's a pleasure working with people here, and we've learned a lot. And those relationships have enabled us to build our business and expand. And in this journey, what we have realized, what we've seen, and this is also related to the future, that there is transformation happening everywhere. So when we look at where we should invest and expand, and like I said, this is the largest geo, this whole region for us, we see Europe and the UK adopting technology transformation very rapidly. And you would be aware of that, okay? Whether it's different parts of the UK in terms of innovation, if you look at Europe, look at the various countries. And UK was a gateway for us into Europe, to be absolutely frank. We first came here, and then based on this, then we expanded, right? So we see massive and rapid technology transformation. And we also see, clients here willing to engage with companies like ITC Infotech. It's not a question of a tier one and so on and so forth. They're looking for organizations, like I said, which can come with joint venture and partnership. We have found the partnership theme to be very important in UK and in Europe with all our clients. And that has nurtured our own ambitions. And today we are continuing to invest out here. And, we have offices in different parts of Europe. And, we find, all the clients continuing to also invest as far as Europe is concerned. In fact, we are actively looking, we have been, before COVID-19, we were actively looking at where we would establish centers here. Okay, and nearshore center. Ref my point about the UK looking to grab market share. okay, where you provide incentives. So that's really a little bit about the market. We find it very high potential, great to do work in, resonates with our philosophy and our core values. Why would we not invest here?
You mentioned that the UK was your gateway to Europe, and I'm sure it was one of the best known sort of destinations to kind of move into a larger European market. But obviously, Brexit has changed a lot of this. And so, has your company's way of looking at the UK as a separate market now and how you deal with the UK and Europe changed in any way?
So it hasn't affected us really, because we were already we have a separate company registered here, and then we have entities in different countries in Europe. So there's absolutely no change, and of course we have to see how Brexit pans out. It's still being discussed, and so on and so forth. I mean, maybe mobility of people will get affected to some extent, but apart from that, not really. And like I said, for us, Europe is actually separate countries. So we work in different countries, and we don't look at Europe as one at all. We look at Finland, where we work a lot, in Austria, in Germany, in the Benelux region, and now in France. Okay, we work with each country, and each country has its own sort of investment plans as far as we are concerned. So we don't see that really changing. But yes, being an Indian company, we first landed in the UK, like many Indian companies do. Obviously, the language and so on, and we go back so many years. But then we expanded into different countries. So Brexit hasn't made any difference to us.
Earlier on, Hardeep, you touched a little bit about other companies that might have struggled when moving to a foreign market, and certainly we see a lot of Indian companies who are looking or planning to expand overseas. Sort of wondering or worrying about what sort of hurdles that they might come across. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that. So what are the challenges or what are the opportunities to overcome these challenges now with changing times for Indian companies looking to expand their operations?
Sure. So, well, I mean, obviously, it's been a long time since we first came here. Okay, but I do interact with entrepreneurs and interact with companies which are just looking to set up and be part of these trade body meetings. So I think, well, first of all, things have obviously changed a lot. Okay, I would I think that the market is far more lucrative now. So it's a rapidly growing market. So obviously, people should look at coming in here. I think one big gap, and this is my perception. Okay, I'm not actually living that right now, but I think one big gap is entrepreneurs, companies which are looking to set up, and I'm not talking about the big companies, right? I mean, obviously, big companies are already here, and they have the infrastructure, very easy for them to do things. Smaller companies, there's a lack of awareness of what is the help that the UK government can really provide. Okay, I don't think there is complete awareness, right? In terms of, I mean, I've been in many of these meetings with trade bodies where you have an entrepreneur actually making that statement. Look, what is it that I can actually avail of, whether there's incentives in different parts, whether there is a particular sector which has a particular package which can help them, or simply market access. So there are two parts to it. One is awareness of how the government or the government trade bodies can help, and the second is, of course, market access. I mean, what does a company which is starting up in a new region want? Market access, right? How do I access the market? One is I have to make my own investments, which are obviously put in my own salespeople. The other is there anything that, is there any help that can be provided? And I don't think that is there. I don't have a, sort of a solution. I have a suggestion. I mean, you can share that with whoever would be interested. I think there is no forum here which actually is a group which is actually focused on helping SMEs set up and grow in the UK. Right? There's of course the NASCOM group, and I may be wrong. It's possible that there is. I'm not aware, and I think if also relating to the UK tech collaboration or the UK India collaboration, I think that's sort of a group would be useful, definitely, which is actually focused on, how do you help SMEs expand here in different sectors and so on. Okay, so I'm not aware that that is really there. Like I said, I've been part of meetings where people are asking very basic questions, but I may be wrong.
Thanks, Hardeep. And this is my final question to you today. Looking towards the future, what are some of the plans that ITC Infotech has moving forward? And I know it's a little bit perhaps early to talk about a post-pandemic world, but one can certainly hope that that time is not so far away from us. So do you have any plans for the post-pandemic as well?
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, post-pandemic is a fundamental question which everybody is asking, right? Till we get a vaccine and people can come back, but you can't wait. So I mentioned earlier, and how is it changing? So in some sense, fundamentals don't change. Okay, our core values will not change. Our core focus on employee centricity, client centricity, and operational excellence will not change. What is changing, of course, one is from our own perspective, how we are setting up and getting used to and sustaining secure work from home, which we are doing all the time. That's a reality. That's a way of life. Okay, and we will continue to do that. The other is the way our clients are changing. Okay, and how their requirements are changing, and companies in different sectors are reacting in different ways. And just to reiterate what I'd already shared earlier, that the first one big realization for those companies who did not, who are not completely invested behind digital transformation, it is now not. It's a survival scenario for many. Okay, I mean, you would have seen, you have read the news of some companies just folding up and so on because they didn't have the online, strategy in place. Whereas, those who did have survived. The second is all of us as consumers have also changed in some way in the way we are shopping. So consumer loyalty and engagement is become super critical, and how companies will do that. So we see a lot of work coming in that, and we see ourselves, doing a lot of work with our clients to help them, really address those challenges. The third, of course, is I mentioned automation. I think what we are doing in ITC Infotech is really good. I don't know whether it's unique, but I think it's very good. I think it will bring automation home to all of us, not as a threat. That's very important. Not as a threat, but as something which so that we can leverage technology. So rather than the fear of technology taking over, it's the other way around. We can leverage it to make ourselves more productive, release bandwidth to do a lot more important things. All our clients are talking about that today. Okay, that we need to release the bandwidth of our key people. How can you sort of help in doing that? Given that a lot of people are working remotely and various other pressures. So that's the third. The fourth is yet to be seen how the world will change, and that's related to what it's still early days, but the track and trace. I know this may be a very unique siloed sort of area, but track and trace solutions are becoming very important. So people are extremely worried about what happens when you have a pandemic which can be communicated through touch. And we are right now actually working on with a few clients on actually developing a track and trace solution across the supply chain. I can't share any more than that, but it's an interesting sort of requirement which has suddenly come up. And how do you make smart packaging, safe packaging? There is a lot of discussion going on around that, which may go away if obviously the pandemic is all sorted out. But these are some of the things that emerging. But pretty much the first three are extremely important. Okay, I think digital transformation will become really important. Consumer engagement and consumer loyalty, automation with a human-centric approach. I think these are going to be very important.
Hardeep, thank you for sharing all those incredible insights, and particularly about all the exciting projects that ITC is taking into view and working on. I know for sure I'll be looking out for the bot buddies. Pretty sold on that concept. But thank you so much for taking the time out to do this interview with us.